here. Mega Venusaur, heavily slept on Mega slot, in my opinion, but a very good one nonetheless. Very tanky, very bulky, and can do a ton of damage with that Sludge Bomb into a team that it is very effective against. We also have accommodating that with this dual Mega strategy of Aerodactyl. Mega Aerodactyl is just an amazing Pokemon. Even if you don't have Focus Sash, you have the ability to just put on a ton of pressure just by clicking that Mega Evolution and getting a tremendous boost of speed.
Yep, to round out Padrick's team, you saw in the team preview, but it's the Garchomp with Roselli Berry, Focus Sash, Basket Legion, Incineroar, and Ninetales. A little bit of a weather war maybe in store for us today, but looking at these leads, it's the Incineroar and Aerodactyl right into the Pelipper and Archaludon on Samuel's side.
Interesting. Did we just see the Intimidate before Pelipper? That means this Pelipper is not really trained for speed. Or is that a really fast Incineroar?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, it took me a second. I want to say the Pelipper did activate first, but I may have just been misseeing that. Here, we can take a look at how these Pokemon are trained. We do have their stat alignments on it, and it's an Adamant Incineroar and a Bold Pelipper.
Interesting,
so
interesting.
the Incineroar boosting its attack, lowering its special attack. The Pelipper boosting its defense and lowering its attack. Generally, yes, you would say that would give you an inclination at least that the Incineroar, the Adamant nature, trained a little bit more quickly. The Pelipper with the defensive focused alignment, going to be a little slower generally as the Fake Out does go into the Pelipper, and the Archaludon actually also moves before this Pelipper on the turn, before the Pelipper can flinch, just firing an Aura Sphere right into the Ninetales, a Lowland form that switches in.
Nicely done. That's a huge chunk of damage on Ninetales already. And of course, changing the weather here from that rain to this snowy atmosphere, it's going to be a little bit more dangerous to be in this field for Archaludon, I feel. Simply because we have Aurora Veil to contend with, but you got to be careful with that Flash Cannon, right? You got to be careful.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Ninetales does have Protect available to it. It's the Never Melt Ice item to give it just a little bit more oomph to its Ice-type moves, the Blizzard and the Freeze Dry. And that does have the Encore available to it. Probably not a position where you're going to want to Encore this Archaludon into Aura Sphere while your Incineroar is still on the field. But Freeze Dry does come out into what was the Pelipper. Now the King Gambit will take that quite nicely.
Yes,
for
excellent
Samuel.
switch. Excellent switch here. And then we're going to see a Parting Shot into Archaludon. Very good way to handle this Pokemon because it can get very crazy with all those boosts, especially to the stamina, or if it does try to go for one of those, special attack raises. But not going to be too worried about that. Another Aura Sphere going into Venusaur, going to take that like a champion. That was negligible damage. Hey, he basically healed him. I'm not gonna lie. He didn't take anything from that, and he hasn't even Mega Evolved yet. That's crazy.
Yeah. So Padrick, we have seen now all 4 Pokemon, both Pokemon capable of Mega Evolution. Likely, I would think it's the Venusaur that's going to be the best candidate here in this matchup for Padrick.
Yep.
But crucially, too, and I'm sure eagle-eye viewers have already noticed this, the Incineroar Parting Shot activating before the Archaludon clicked Aura Sphere that turn. We'd already confirmed that the Archaludon was faster than the Pelipper, and now knowing that Padrick's Incineroar faster than the Archaludon gives us a much better sense and confirms the interaction of those abilities activating on turn 1. Turn 0, quote unquote.
I gotta say, I like these switch-ins to avoid a possible Earth Power and also getting your weather back into the rain. And of course, having 2 Pokemon with Hurricane active while rain is up is pretty good in my opinion. Definitely threatening this here Venusaur. And now getting in scot-free because of Protect from Ninetales. And there goes the Earth Power coming into a flying slot. Yes, very good double switch heads-up play here from Samuel.
Yep, and all of a sudden, things turning on their head with that double switch. I mean, it's a pretty safe, it's a pretty reasonable play for Padrick to make. You want to protect the Ninetales in front of a King Gambit that can play Iron Head into you.
Yes.
And the Venusaur with the Earth Power, it's really your best option to deal damage to this King Gambit.
Absolutely.
Of course, you don't want to switch Incineroar into the King Gambit to give it the extra boost to its attack with the Defiant ability. So, you're really focusing that down, and Samuel identifying that correctly, and taking advantage. Now getting into a position which, even though the Dragonite is staring down the Ninetales, and actually Ninetales can freeze dry into both of these Pokemon.
Sure could.
4 times regular damage.
But you know what? Multi-skill has something to say about that. It's not going to be taking that much damage if it gets targeted from that attack. But also there's another pesky underlying feature here. And that's, oh, okay, so Ghost for the Pelipper does take it down. That's the end of the Weather War if we can switch out Ninetales safely. But this Hurricane coming out is going to do huge amounts of damage. It's going to go into the Incineroar so to see just how much a Stab Hurricane in the rain does. Oh, and the confusion. Oh, that's not what you want to see. That's not what you want to see.
No, that did so much damage. And it's going to be very, very close on if another Hurricane will knock out the Incineroar. That first one did about 123 points of damage. You know, now that we have the benefit of seeing the HP stats on our screen, did 123 points of damage to the Incineroar. So could be a damage roll with another Hurricane. But of course, you know, like you mentioned, even like we saw, going to have to fight through that confusion first.
Absolutely. And more to the point is we have to switch out this Ninetales if we want to reset up the snow because we're in rain right now. And now, even if we do this switch out, right, this is going to make that open slot very vulnerable. So you have to deal with the confusion and the possible combination attack going into that newly fresh Pokemon coming in. That's a very terrifying prospect to deal with. But Ninetales also doesn't like staring at either of these Pokemon in the field right now. I mean, yeah, you can go for a Moonblast, but just as I thought, here comes the switch. It's Aerodactyl coming in. Is it going to stick around long enough to be able to do anything?
I think if the Incineroar can get through its confusion this turn, a fake out into this King Gambit would allow you to get the Aerodactyl in quite safely. I know it's a parting shot, rather.
Into the Protect here. What a good call for Dragonite. And now Kowtow Cleave going to deal a significant portion of damage into Aerodactyl, but it does hang on.
Wow, and that's just the power of those black glasses that the King Gambit is wearing.
Huge. Yeah, that was a lot. that was a lot.
We know that Aerodactyl's generally a pretty frail Pokemon, but
that did a lot.
That's a neutral attack.
that was
like,
neutral.
I had to go through my brain a little bit, like, okay, you know, did the Incineroar give it the Defiant boost? Did you actually parting shot into that slot? No.
That was just wrong.
But getting the Aerodactyl in, even if it were just at 1 HP, allows it to click Tailwind this turn. The Incineroar now snaps out of its confusion, gets the parting shot into the Dragonite, and will be able to get off the field to reset that fake out pressure for a little bit later on in this matchup. I do also think it's curious, the Kowtow Cleave into the Ninetales slot rather than the Iron Head last turn, that likely would have been enough to knock out either the Ninetales or the Aerodactyl.
Very important drop. Oh, wow.
Hurricane coming out into the Venusaur on the switch, and very important, like you mentioned, a special attack drop.
Yes.
Allowing the Venusaur to take that attack just a little bit more safely, but you know, there is still a King Gambit on the other side of the field that has Sucker Punch available, and you know, Ninetales can have access to both Encore and Disable.
Yeah.
But on this set for Padrick only has Encore. No way to stop a potential Sucker Punch into this Venusaur that really can only protect to save itself from that fate.
One thing going for them, though, is that Tailwind, and Ninetales is quite fast, and I do think Dragonite is going to take a significant amount of damage if there's like a Moonblast going into that slot, but it does still have multi-scale, so I don't know. Oh, we just opt for a Protect, so we're not going to play that mind game at all right now.
No, they Protect on both of these Pokemon, and I think a relatively safe call. You just want to stall out one more turn of this Tailwind as the Blizzard comes out from the Ninetales, and the Venusaur does just attack here. It's just an Earth Power into the King Gambit, leaving itself very open to a Sucker Punch into that slot. You know, we have to see if that was Padrick making a pretty risky call on that turn, or if he is very confident that there will not be a Sucker Punch coming out from this King Gambit.
Oh, okay, I see. So Ninetales actually doesn't have a Moonblast, but does have two very powerful Ice types. The Blizzard, of course, we saw already, but the Freeze Drive we saw later as well. It's Encore Protect for the round out, so it's not looking too bad here for King Gambit. It's going to go fail actually not into a protect because it has no target. But this Blizzard, I do suspect Dragonite getting taken out here. Then there it is. There it is from multi-scale. that's some big damage.
Okay, it is a critical hit.
It's a crit. Okay,
I was waiting for that yellow text to come on the screen. I mean, you saw my jaw on the floor. I know it's Never Melt Ice gives you the extra boost to your ice type damage, but through multi-scale, that halves that damage.
Yeah. I was a little shocked too. I'm not gonna lie to you, but
But a huge critical hit for Padrick there, and we may be to the point in the game where we have to start counting these sucker punches from the King Gambit.
Yes.
That was the first one I think that we've seen all game. With the Encore available to the Ninetales, you have the chance now to Encore lock the King Gambit into Sucker Punch. The problem is, you really can't be clicking on too many damaging moves. If
we have to win the game at some point. Yes, sir.
Exactly. Sucker Punch does come out into the Venusaur, will take care of that knockout on this turn. Now Ninetales, another Blizzard, no Encore coming out here, and
oh, that's so good. That damage is insane.
Big
wow.
chunk of damage.
75% on spread. It doesn't feel like it. That's a huge amount of damage coming out from Ninetales, though. And finally, the Tailwind Peters out. But I don't think we're really lacking for speed. It's a Ninetales after all. We gotta be very speedy. And of course, Incineroar now has fake out pressure, so it's not really gonna be too pressure getting your attack in. Oh, but the Defiant Boost. Oh, a Sucker Punch from this range could actually take out that Ninetales.
With the resist from the Fairy typing and the defense boost that you get from Snow, it would really depend on, I'm assuming this King Gambit with the Advent stat alignment, boosting its attack, lowering its special attack, it's likely going to be trained as much as it can be in its attack stat. This Ninetales really just depends on how much investment it has in its defenses, as just both Pokemon will protect on Samuel's side. Relatively safe in front of a fake out, although now you do still have to contend with this Ninetales that has Encore that could lock either one of these two Pokemon into this protect. Something that at least Samuel has to be constantly aware of whenever making plays like that, and especially with this moveset on the Archaladon, as we saw just a couple of turns ago, opted to click Aura Sphere into the Ninetales because it does not have Flash Cannon. It carries Aura Sphere in that slot alongside Electroshot, Dragon Pulse, and Protect.
I don't know, June. Based on the damage I saw from that Blizzard before, maybe it could do it. maybe it has what it takes.
It may. Well, the Flare Blitz goes out into King Gambit right here, and we just see the Protect on Ninetales. No chance to Encore this Archaladon into Protect. Rather, the Aura Sphere just goes into the Ninetales Protect, and what looked like a pretty worrisome position for Padrick. You had given the King Gambit the boost to its attack. You were, on the back foot as far as, I think, damage goes into these two steel types.
I think the scarier part is that we just lost the Snow, so now that accuracy on Blizzard's not looking so accurate. I'm a little shook now, I ain't gonna lie. It's single target. We will be likely to get a knockout, but now we're flipping coins. Goes for the Freeze Dry instead. Not gonna be enough to get a knockout here. Are we faster than an Incineroar, but can we even knock out both? No, we're not faster than Incineroar.
No, we have already seen the Incineroar move before the Archaladon a few times in this set, giving us a pretty strong idea that it's not a speed tie, rather the Incineroar is just faster than that Pokemon. And sometimes that really is what can determine these games, is who is moving first. That's why speed control is so important. That's why I think the real turning point of that first game was when the Aerodactyl came in onto the field, took the Kowtow Cleave, took a lot of damage from the Kowtow Cleave.
Yes, it did.
But still survived on very low HP to get the Tailwind off right after and allow Padrick to have that speed advantage for just those 3 or 4 turns. That is really the impetus there that allowed him to take the advantage in this first game.
I gotta say, I wasn't too upset with the leads. I think the leads were great on both sides, honestly. But what kind of adjustment do you think we need to make as this Dragonite player, as Samuel needs to adjust? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really just being more proactive with your Pelipper.
Yeah.
Certainly Padrick has the Snow option with the Alolan Ninetales on his side, but that's not terribly crucial. The Snow being up isn't crucial to Padrick's game plan. We saw the Ninetales stayed on the field in the rain for quite a few turns and was still pretty productive. Even got the knockout on the Pelipper.
Freeze Dry is a good move.
In rain. Freeze Dry is a very good move.
Freeze Dry is a good move.
And so if you're Samuel, you require your weather to be up. much more so than Padrick does, you have to be a little bit more proactive in protecting your Pelipper. Try to say that phrase 5 times fast.
Protecting Pelipper.
But you have to be a little bit more proactive in that way so that you can maintain weather control. It is very difficult with a Ninetales with Freeze Dry and a Pelipper that lacks the option to protect. You do have the Wide Guard to protect your side from moves like Blizzard, but that is part of the the great team building here on the Ninetales is that you have also the single target option in Freeze Dry,
Yes.
which we saw do just so much,
So much.
in that first game.
It took out that Pelipper frame 1. Like, I didn't even try to resist.
Whatever the opposite of the Blissey HP bar is from Generation 4.
That's what happened.
That's what that was.
All right, here we go. Game 2, baby. Let's see what happens. We're going to lock in our Aerodactyl and Garchomp. Big adjustment. Okay. And Basculegion and Pelipper. I like the Basculegion read here. Definitely threatening that Aerodactyl, of course. And remember, Aerodactyl here does not have a sash of any sort. It is Aerodactylite. So you could pressure a huge amount of damage into that slot with this Basculegion if we have, faster Basculegion, but I don't think we do.
We do. It is a Choice Scarf item, so the
Oh, it is
Basculegion,
Scarf. Okay.
a crucial speed interaction here is if these Pokemon are all trained to be as fast as possible, the Choice Scarf Basculegion will outspeed this Aerodactyl in its current form.
Yes.
Now, if the Aerodactyl were to Mega Evolve, there is no way for a Basculegion, even with the Choice Scarf, to be faster than a Mega Aerodactyl. Padrick opting not to Mega Evolve the Aerodactyl, really prioritizing the weather control on this turn, and likely keeping the Mega Evolution as an option for that Venusaur in the back. Will take a pretty hefty amount of damage from that flip turn as the Basculegion just heads right back out for repositioning on Sam's side as well.
I gotta say, I'm disappointed. I was excited to see Mega Aerodactyl make a debut on stream today, but, it doesn't happen. Maybe next time. Rock Slide coming in is going to do a ton of damage to this Pelipper. Very good damage despite spread. Very respectable indeed. Are we going to get a flinch here?
Oh, see, I didn't want to say anything. I wasn't trying to put my finger on the scale one way or the other.
It's not your turn, it's our turn. Sorry.
So the Pelipper does flinch. Nothing doing from that slot for Samuel on turn 1, and now you're in a similar position as you were in game 1 with the Ninetales on the field across from the Pelipper. This time Snow is already active. I just don't know what you have in the back that can really switch into this Freeze Dry if you're Samuel.
Not even a little bit.
If you brought your Mega Dragonite, which is your only Pokemon capable of Mega Evolution, that sure doesn't want to take a Freeze Dry on the switch in. The Archaladon probably doesn't want to either.
Yeah, Padrick recognizing, hey, you know what? This Ninetales gave you a lot of problems in that first game. I'm going to bring that back again. It's going to give you even more troubles now because I know what you're doing.
Yeah, the Garchomp will protect in this turn. Padrick just trying to keep that Pokemon safe, and it is just the Freeze Dry into the Pelipper, knocking that Pokemon out once again and securing the Snow for the rest of the game. Critical hit that one.
No, it did matter. It did matter.
Spiritually,
it's about sending a message.
No,
Oh my God.
And the message that Ninetales sent was, I did my job.
I did my job.
I did my job. I can return to my Pokeball happy, even taking that Iron Head from the King Gambit. Aerodactyl now back onto the field. And it's going to be the Dragonite making the debut. So yes, we see really nothing on Samuel's side that wanted to switch in to that Freeze Dry.
It is a little annoying to see King Gambit, so you can't just be completely ignorant and click double Rock Slide or something like that here. But we got to figure out what to do about King Gambit. Is it going to switch out? Because I don't know if it wants to take a stomping tantrum or any kind of earthquake.
Yeah, it is the Earthquake that's on this Garchomp. It's Rock Slide, Earthquake, and Dragon Claw are the attacking options. So that's why we didn't see it use any attack on the last turn. You really don't care about the damage that a Rock Slide or a Dragon Claw can get into a King Gambit, and you don't really want to click Earthquake next to your own Ninetales that does not have the ground type immunity. But this turn, you do have a ground immunity with Aerodactyl on the field next to you. The Sucker Punch going into Garchomp doing a lot of damage, honestly, as Aerodactyl clicks Rock Slide here. Curious to see the speed interaction between the Dragonite and the Garchomp here.
Did we get the flinch again? No, we get a Dragon Pulse that will take out the Garchomp immediately. Okay, but that does give us the chance to bring in whatever we have in the back. Do you think it's that Venusaur?
I think there's a strong chance that it could be I think, yes. I think it's likely the Venusaur. Not seeing the Aerodactyl Mega Evolve at all thus far in the game gives you a pretty good sense of that. You do get the Rock Slide damage onto the King Gambit last turn, so now possibly in range of an Earth Power from this Venusaur. The bigger deal, though, in that last turn was that we did see the Dragonite move before the Garchomp.
Yes, yes.
Which is always noteworthy. You know, the Dragonite in its Mega form still is naturally slightly slower than the Garchomp, but you're giving us a better sense of how these Pokemon are trained, neither with speed-boosting natures or speed-boosting stat alignments on them.
You know, I really like the idea of clicking Earth Power from this Venusaur right now too, because we did take out Pelipper. There's no flying types in the back, and we got it's on screen right now, so we can safely go for Earth Power right now and try to eradicate the menace known as King Gambit. Tailwind is going to be huge here. We're going to see Venusaur move first, most likely, and it is the Earth Power into that slot. Goodbye. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
No, this King Gambit quite bulky. It looks like taking that pretty well as Hurricane outside of the rain into the Venusaur. Just 70% accurate and the one hit. Oh.
Get him out of here, baby. Get him out of here.
No, and truly, for Samuel, not really a better play there. With so much momentum on his side of the field, Padrick just loses both Pokemon immediately.
Wow. All because my Earth Power could not finish the job.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bulky King Gambit.
It's a very bulky King Gambit, it appears, and I think more than anything, you know, it also shows us that there's a very explosive matchup. You know, we saw a lot of KOs from very high percentages in this one. With the Iron Head going into the Ninetales, which is 4 times super effective. The Freeze Drive from the Ninetales into the Pelipper with a 4 times super effective hit. The Dragon Pulse from Dragonite into the Garchomp. You know, there were so many. I think, you know, maybe 30 or 40% at most had gotten put down onto any Pokemon before it was knocked out. Outside of that King Gambit, which kept on surviving a couple Rock Slides and the Earth Power.
Yes.
You know, just shows why it is one of the most used Pokemon in this current format.
It's not for no reason. That Pokemon ain't no slouch, baby. It just doesn't work. King Gambit is just so threatening. It's a scary Pokemon, dude.
And especially with the Black Glasses item, we've seen just how much damage that thing can do. It really, just the presence of King Gambit and knowing how little damage an Earth Power from Venusaur will do to it, I think it does make Padrick rethink some of the strategy. Yeah. You know, he made the choice to drop the Incineroar in that second game in favor of the Garchomp. In theory, it's something that has a pretty good matchup into this King Gambit.
Yes.
You don't risk giving it, you know, a boost to its attack with the Intimidate ability from Incineroar. You still hit it super effectively with your Earthquakes, and if it attacks into you, it's going to take damage from Rough Skin. But just not getting enough damage onto the field, and crucially, of course, finding out that your Garchomp was slower than the opposing Dragonite really makes this a lot trickier for Padrick as we head into this third game.
You know, I just gotta say it, love it or hate it. The reason these Pokemon are the Big Four is the reason they're the Big Four. Your Sneasler, your King Gambits, your Garchomp. They're just such good Pokemon. They do everything. Basculegion is ridiculous. It does so much. And we got like 3 of the 4 on this team right now. It's just too good.
Yeah, exactly. There is the reason that we see all these Pokemon. I do think the Basculegion on Padrick's side could be an interesting bring here as well. You know, something that really punishes Samuel from taking those early knockouts.
Yes.
Where it looks like he's quite poised to do with this Basculegion in the rain with the Choice Scarf item, staring down an Incineroar that cannot protect and also cannot fake it out because of the Ghost typing.
Yes, that's what makes it so scary. And again, it's one of those situations where it doesn't have a true counter in the format. Like, Incineroar just cannot touch this thing. And it's Incineroar. It's like one of the pillars of VGC in a way, you know what I'm saying? But now we're in a situation where we have to just respect whatever this thing does. Mega Evolution locked in early. Venusaur is now appeared. I wonder if it just protected though.
It's possible with you.
Fake Out goes out.
Potential Hurricane from the Pelipper, but Fake Out into the Pelipper. Flip turn coming out into a Incineroar.
Wow, that's a bulky Pokemon.
Yeah, well, we did see the Intimidate come down, lowering the Basculegion's attack by 1 stage, which really just a credit to how strong Basculegion is with the adaptability, boosting its damage output, with the rain boosting its water type damage output. just getting so much damage off, even with its attack lowered. The flip turn goes into the Dragonite, as now we'll see an Earth Power from the Venusaur. Once again, Samuel catching that with the Flying type, and just getting so much momentum going into the second turn.
Honestly, this is a scary situation, again, because you're looking at two Pokemon that have Hurricane in the rain. Now, you got to be careful, though, because Ninetales came for the first 2 games. There's no reason for it to not come into the third. A switching from Incineroar into Ninetales can make those Hurricanes immediately drop in accuracy. Doesn't guarantee a miss, but it's much less likely. We do see the switch out. Is it going to be that Ninetales? Yes, it is. Here we are in the snow. And did we double into the Hurricane? Let's see what happens. We do get a confirmed Mega Evolution, though.
We do, and because we haven't mentioned it to this point, we do wish it was a shiny dragon.
I do wish it was.
I've been thinking it every single game, but the Hurricane does avoid the Venusaur.
That's one.
As the Giga Drain comes out into the Pelipper, very strong damage right there. You know, just the neutral attack as Pelipper, you know, the water typing weak to the grass move, as the flying typing will allow it to resist. But getting it Tailwind up, now Dragonite faster than this Ninetales, the Pelipper should be as well. You know, Ninetales pretty well positioned here, but really it all comes down to that Hurricane missing into Venusaur. Padrick really taking advantage of the accuracy drop, turning from perfectly accurate to just 70% of the time hitting. And it's going to be the Protect on Venusaur. Padrick, I guess not thinking he's going to be lucky enough to dodge a Hurricane 2 times in a row, as Wide Guard comes out from this
Smart Wide Guard, but I suspect that because of that Protect, we're going to see a Freeze Dry and not an actual Blizzard here. Yeah. Oh, Encore! What an answer! What an answer! That's so good!
And after all of games 1 and 2, I'm begging Patrick to click Encore. Now he finally does. Locks the Pelipper into Wide Guard, effectively just turning that slot off. You know, certainly you can't click Blizzard anymore.
No, that's it.
But now you can switch into Aerodactyl, which does resist flying moves on paper. You know, I think we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll see how much damage this Hurricane might still do to an Aerodactyl, and I think you might be shocked by this.
Are we gonna get the confusion though? Let's see what happens. 30%. There it is. Confusion is. Listen, hey, I have a gift. I gotta use it.
And the Freeze Dry does put a Dragonite through multi-scale and still doing just so much damage.
A Rock Slide here would be really nice.
Well, a Rock Slide would still be blocked by the Wide Guard.
True, we don't want that. That's true.
But the Aerodactyl does have a chance to match Tailwinds. Maybe not this turn, of course. You know, this is the last turn of Tailwind for Samuel's side, so if you're Padrick, you're pretty safe right here at least to just protect both of these Pokemon and stall out this last turn of Tailwind. The only problem with that is that, you know, if, say, that Basculegion comes back out this turn, takes advantage of a passive play on Padrick's side, could then give Samuel an opportunity to still have the fastest Pokemon on the field with that Basculegion.
Honestly, we could even see the Pelipper come out. Like, the Pelipper coming out for Basculegion would be such a heads-up play, because you're already conditioned to think, I'm going to click Pelipper, because it was already in the last 2 turns.
Yeah, but rather we do see the Dragonite switch into King Gambit. No switch on the Pelipper slot, and Aerodactyl does hit itself in confusion. Aerodactyl, it looked like was going for a Protect that turn, since it hit itself before the Pelipper was able to click its Wide Guard. Freeze Dry goes into the King Gambit switch in. We have yet to see a freeze in this set. I thought I might have a little bit. I thought I might have a little bit of luck.
A freeze would be horrific.
Especially in the King Gambit, because once again we see not a ton of great answers on Padrick's side for this King Gambit. Of course, the Venusaur is still at full HP, and if you can get just a little bit more damage onto the King Gambit, you'll be able to really start to have that add up. Put it into range of this Venusaur's Earth Power, potentially.
You know, I think this Ninetales is just going to take another double knockout. What do you think? I'm joking.
I don't know about all that. The Pelipper does switch out. Now, I was thinking a Freeze Dry into the Pelipper slot plus a Tailwind potentially does feel quite safe, but no, the Protect from Ninetales comes out.
Protecting here is definitely valid, because we don't want to take an Iron Head from this King Gambit in any way, shape, or form. That will do it, though. Dragonite going right back out as it came in.
Yeah, and a critical hit on King Gambit up actually being quite important as we get to the point where Venusaur may be able to come in and start hitting that with an Earth Power. A very strong turn from Padrick in that he was able to get more damage onto the King Gambit and knock out this Dragonite. I was worried about the Basculegion once again coming onto the field here. Pelipper does reestablish the rain, but you still are in a position where both of Padrick's Pokemon are just naturally much faster than the two that Samuel has on the field. You're able to get a Tailwind up at, whenever you want to click it if you're Padrick, which would then let your Venusaur and potentially even your Incineroar outrun that Basculegion. The Aerodactyl still fighting through its confusion. We're hoping that she figures it out soon, but does get the Tailwind up. Freeze Dry knocking out the Pelipper and bringing Samuel down to its last two Pokemon. Coming up here shortly, right after this King Gambit, likely will take a KO. Yep, with Iron Head. Onto this Ninetales, another one-hit knockout for that Pokemon.
But you know what? We're fine with losing Ninetales at this point because it has, again, done its job. Bringing in Venusaur now into a Basculegion seems like a really good matchup for you. And we just used Tailwind, so we actually might be way faster too.
Yeah, the Tailwind perfectly timed there by Padrick. You do not have Protect on this Basculegion as it's holding the Choice Scarf item, so Venusaur comes out here, can just threaten a Grass move onto Basculegion, can threaten the Ground move onto King Gambit. The only question really is a Giga Drain enough for this Venusaur to knock out the opposing Basculegion? I would think no, most likely. And so potential Sucker Punch into Aerodactyl and Last Respect into Venusaur is quite scary, but no, Sucker Punch goes right into the Venusaur immediately. Still confused is Aerodactyl.
Rock Slide. That might put it
Slide.
into range for a Giga Drain here. If we see it go into the Basculegion, it is Giga Drain. That will do it. That's range right there. That's very well positioned.
And this Aerodactyl has just had truly one of the most baffling days of its young life.
It just started throwing rocks everywhere. It couldn't decipher where it was going. It's just like, I'll just scatter it. It's fine.
And great aim through the confusion for this Aerodactyl. Gets the Basculegion just in range of that Giga Drain, and now the forfeit comes through on Samuel's side. Still was potentially some room, but with the Venusaur
tough.
with Earth Power, with the Incineroar with Flare Blitz, it's just going to be a little bit too much in that end game.
It was only a matter of time that rain went down too. By the time you get through both of those really powerful Pokemon, like Venusaur is extremely bulky. Maybe Aerodactyl goes down, but yeah, it would have been neutral by the time that Incineroar came in for a Flare Blitz too. That was just a tough match. Very well positioned by, of course, Padrick here. It was a great game on their part.
Yep, and just a very interesting kind of decision there at the end of that game. Dissecting that a little bit more, I mentioned the opportunity for a Sucker Punch to go into that Aerodactyl. I'm very curious to see what would have happened if that call had gone through, if Samuel had taken the knockout on Aerodactyl with the Sucker Punch. Basculegion potentially still survives that Giga Drain, and then what kind of a world are we in? Does the Basculegion pick up the Venusaur with a Last Respects that would be at, 150 base power after two allies have been knocked out?
Yeah.
Things become a lot tighter, a lot more quickly in that end game, but goes through Padrick getting those calls right and trusting in that Aerodactyl with all of those inaccurate moves to land them when they need to.
Wait, my Aerodactyl was confusing.
Well, how did you think it lost its HP first?
Irrelevant.
But what a fantastic win for Padrick. We hope that he will make it into our top cut phase of this tournament. A 4-2 record now for him. Great match for both of our players, and we'll be right back on the other side of this break with that announcement of our top cut players. You won't want to miss it.
Stay tuned.